All right, everyone, it's time to talk about Nick Fuentes and Gorka and Charlie Kirk, TPUSA, and all the funny things happening with that. To be clear, first and foremost, because I know I've got people that are America Firsters and people who are more paleocon or whatever you would call them on the channel. So I'm not really, there's no side to be taken here because my reaction is the same as it has been anytime someone clamors for censorship. What happened is that Nick Fuentes and some of his people showed up at the TPUSA event with Charlie Kirk and these others and griped them, essentially. Asking questions that neocons don't want to answer, like, why do we have such undying amounts of fiscal support for Israel? Or why is the border not shut? Why is it that you're okay with millions of people coming into the country illegally as long as they are retroactively legalized? These are questions that these individuals think beyond the pale and therefore should not be asked. But the thing is, you should be able to ask any question, however supposedly objectionable it may be. Here's the thing that I hate. I look at Gorka's response. Sebastian Gorka, he worked with Trump for a while. Now, I don't have a problem with Gorka per se. Some of the things he says I agree with totally, like when he used to ramble against censorship. He spent the last year lambasting tech censorship, only to look at this particular event and say, but this time it's okay. Why is Nick Fuentes verified on Twitter, he says. Well, verification initially just meant that the person was who they were, was who they said they were. Like, Nick Fuentes is actually himself. He's not actually Ann Coulter with a mask on. That's not actually the case. He's not John Doe down the street wearing an elaborate costume. He is an individual, and he needs to be able to identify himself to a fan base because it's large, he's notable, he's a public figure in some case. That's what verification meant. Gorka, ironically enough, I think it was last year, himself was remarking on the problematic nature of the fact that Twitter was going to weaponize the verification system and deny it to people simply on the basis of their politics. I'm pretty sure he was one of the people calling that out. In that interim year-long period, apparently he's forgotten all about this basic principle that censorship is a bad thing. Now he's calling for the same thing. He then goes crazy on his show because he's getting trolled, he's getting ratioed, he's feeling the pressure, and he doubles down. He says, well, I don't mean I want him censored. Yeah, I don't want to shut up this individual who I just called evil and arguably defamed. No, I'm just saying that why is he verified by Twitter? But you yourself were arguing against the weaponization of verification systems not that long ago, Gorka. What are you doing? I understand that there can be some inconsistency sometimes within people's politics, but that's just absolutely selling out. Here's my thing, and this is the same reaction as I'll have no matter who's being censored. Hassan Piker from the Young Turks gets censored. Did I not make a video defending him? That was Twitch, not YouTube. The thing is, I have to defend people who probably want me to platform. Fuck it, I don't even care. The philosophical basis of the First Amendment, we're not talking about the amendment itself, but the philosophy underlying why it exists in the first place, was instituted specifically to defend against any form of censorship, because censorship is a bad thing. This was understood by the Enlightenment era founders, the liberals, ironically of the period. It's understood that protects unconscionable, taboo, out there, rebellious, weird speech, stuff that most people would frown upon. You don't need to protect somebody's right to say something that's popular. You don't have to protect somebody's right to eat a banana, but you have to protect their right to drop acid, at least if you were really, a pro-liberty movement. I know that's been slow to take off in the so-called conservative movements of this country. I don't really care if Nick Fuentes, who, again, I disagree with the dude on many things. I don't particularly care if people are gay. He's more of a traditionalist on that. We certainly differ on religion. I've even debated him on it. It'll be funny. I'm sure out there'll be some liberals who'll have a problem say, well, I'm defending the platforming of Nazis again, just like after I debated Spencer. And it got misconstrued as me platforming hate. The same will happen with Nick Fuentes because of his views on gayness or Israel or something. People assume that I agree with them. No, I'm saying I don't want him censored. I want his views out in the open. I think when you take people who the left is arguing are one step away from extremism, by the way, and you shove them into an echo chamber, call them all sorts of names, deprive them of well-being, a job, the ability to make money and have a normal life, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? You're nuts. You are literally insane if you think that that's a good idea. I think it's terrible. I think that's how you cause all forms of violence in the world. The left doesn't care. They just wanted to platform people so they don't have to debate them. Much like Charlie Kirk or Gorka, they don't want Nick Fuentes showing up to shit up their party and ask questions that they're not prepared to answer. It's just like the far left. There is no difference in how the concept of censorship, tech censorship specifically, is here being treated. There's no difference. Even the terminology is similar. How is calling him depraved or evil any different from Hillary Clinton calling people deplorable? The tragic irony is that people like Gorka and Kirk and all of these others, they will ramble for years about censorship without realizing that the criticism they are currently aiming at the America Firsters, the Groyper Army or the whatever you want to call it, they're using the exact same reasoning, even the exact same wording almost, as the left when it talks about Gorka and Charlie Kirk. You think that you're winning some sort of ideological struggle and ingratiating yourself and protecting yourself by saying, don't worry, we're not like these hate-filled bigots over there. To a person on the social justice left, there is no difference between Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro. There is no difference between Charlie Kirk and James Alsop. There is no difference. To them, I am identical to Richard Spencer. There's no difference. Different people, but presumably same views because they live in an echo chamber of ignorance. So you can't appease them by saying, well, we're just going to chop off this one limb over here because we think it's too far out there in hopes that the left will leave us alone. When you have a lynch mob, which is what you have, a witch hunter general sort of feeling, a total witch hunt, a moral panic among social justice warriors who have been led to believe by what they think are legitimate sources of reality that an army of Nazis is trying to take over the United States. They think you're a Nazi too, Charlie Kirk. They think Sebastian Gorka is Heinrich Himmler. The fact that you call out Nick Fuentes for some imagined unpardonable sin that he should be censored for that you shouldn't is not going to help you. That's not how you defend the Constitution. No, you defend it by opposing all assaults upon it. So yeah, that means I have to defend people that in some cases are actual white nationalists. Who cares? I'm going to defend a communist too if they get censored. Hassan Piker's one step from that, so, deed already done. What part of I don't want billionaires determining what sort of material I can or cannot interact with do these people not comprehend? I can make that choice. Yes, little Jimmy can make that choice too. You're sit there worried some 13-year-old is going to get turned into a frog meme spewing racist by Nick Fuentes. Well, fuck, that's basically what people have said about me too, and that's not happening. What about the YouTube rabbit hole that they spent so long trying to shove down the public's throats? Well, people show up on YouTube, your kids will watch Sargon of Akkad. That'll lead them to Jordan Peterson, and that'll lead them to James Alsop, and pretty soon there'll be a Daily Stormer. Doesn't happen. That's bullshit. By the way, that same line is trollingly and sometimes unfortunately unironically used by people who are actually out there on that ideological fringe. They think it's hilarious. I think it's pretty funny too, but it's not real. Actually, the reverse is arguably happening now, but you're never going to hear that from the left because they need to justify censorship. They're not worried about somebody who marches down the street in jackboots. They know that that's not going to attract much attention long term anyway. They're worried about people looking sane in comparison and ending up with a populist movement. They're worried about an actual America First sort of movement taking hold, having enough staying power to solve the problems made by neocons and by leftists since the Reagan period. Namely, ignoring the border, ignoring the modern economy, structuring things as though it was morning in America again when it's fucking middle of the night. They're worried about that. They're worried about the loss of globalism because they've invested in multinationals. They don't want to rock the boat. They want the current world order to remain the same, despite the fact that for the average person in the world, especially for the lower classes of the world, it's totally dysfunctional and doesn't work. It abuses 90% of the world's population. Most people in the world, if you are not at least in the upper middle class, you gain no benefit from these policies. Only if you are wealthy enough to reasonably be expected to invest in offshoring a business, like if you have enough expendable income to be able to fast track your residency to Thailand by investing $100,000 in a Thai business or building a business worth that equivalent amount there, which by the way is actually a policy they've got. If you're in that class or above, then yeah, you should be a globalist. You're also part of the 10%. Otherwise, you should not. It's as simple as that. All of these policies suck. They've let the American people down. It's very funny to see them call somebody, they'll call some random YouTuber who has nationalistic views a total virulent racist. Meanwhile, they have no problem enslaving people in foreign countries. Oh yeah, Chinese 12-year-olds build my products. Well, no. I'm a good globalist. I'm a I'm tolerant and diverse. Yeah, I'm very tolerant. I too have 5 mistresses around the world of different colors, says some, millionaire neocon fucking boomer. That's how they've done business. Well, that's dysfunctional, corrupt, and evil. If anyone's evil, it's, no, it's not really the America Firsters. You can think what you want about the legitimacy of their particular proposals. Some of them lack all pragmatism. I'd be glad to debate the subject, but at least they're deeply held beliefs instead of a bunch of fluff. And I don't see them abusing the entire world. I see them admonishing us to leave the world alone. Well, I never knew that it was an authentic conservative belief that we needed to be world police because of problems going on in the Middle East or something like that. That's dumb. It's dumbassery. That's about all. Peace out.